Hi, so today I'm going to talk about the different ways two very powerful men, Neville Chamberlain and Joseph Stalin, managed to um, delay a war with Hitler in the 1930s. Warning, there may be some drilling during the video because my neighbors have decided to drill something into the wall and they've been doing it non-stop for like 2 hours. So I don't know when they're gonna stop, if they stopped already. So I'm just filming this and let's hope they don't start up again. So yeah, if there's some drilling, I'm sorry, but that drilling. Yeah, I can't do anything about it, so let's get into the video. Well, Neville Chamberlain, he was the British Prime Minister from, if I'm not mistaken, 1932 to 1940. Well, he was a great advocate for the policy of appeasement, which basically allowed Hitler to expand his territories and conquests in Germany unchecked and unstopped by foreign powers. And but at the time people thought it was good because it said that Hitler wouldn't start a war. People later on, like revisionist historians, I don't mean revisionist because this is fairly recent, less than 100 years ago, but recently people have been thinking it was a policy of weakness. However, I think it was more of a wise decision which cost him his reputation. He tried to delay Hitler as much as he could to give the British Army time to develop and to get stronger, because they knew by 1936, when this whole thing started, they wouldn't be able to defeat Germany in a war because Germany had already started rearming. So it was just doing what they could. And Neville Chamberlain, he did appease Hitler and then ultimately failed because the war broke out. But he tried to hold on for 3 years, which is kind of impressive. So it was 3 years that without appeasement, the war would have been so much earlier, and who knows what would have happened. So yeah. By the way, I hope none of my hairs stick out from my ponytail like in the last video, which I had this really annoying hair. I only realized that I had that after I finished recording it. I wasn't gonna record it again. So yeah. So let's really get into it. Well, in 1936, the whole remilitarization of the Rhineland occurred, in which just basically Nazi troops marched into Rhineland and just stayed there. The demilitarization of the Rhineland had been one of the policies set out in the Treaty of Versailles in 1918. Well, 1919, but you know. And so that was the first thing that happened. But neither Britain, France, Belgium, no one did anything about it. Hitler just was allowed to march into the Rhineland and just put his troops there. And that's it. Then in March 1938, there was a whole Austrian Anschluss. Germany and Austria had been prohibited from joining together under the Treaty of Versailles. But Hitler said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So he just did it. He himself was from Austria. Then this was prohibited, and then obviously France, Britain saw this and didn't like it. But Chamberlain, he was like, okay, we're not gonna do much about it because we need to keep Hitler happy. If we send troops in, he's gonna send troops back, and we don't want a war. So then is the whole Munich conference in 1938, later that year, with regarding the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia, when the whole peace in our time and the paper thing. I'm going to get into that later, so that's why I'm not really explaining it. And that was the main part of appeasement is signified by that conference, which, again, Chamberlain just bought time. Like, this policy was kind of popular at the time, not massively, but it was relatively. One of the main opponents of this was Winston Churchill himself. He said it was an unmitigated disaster. which it did turn out to be. But, I still defend, like, I used to be one of those people who criticized Chamberlain because of his policy. Like, I thought he just given in to Hitler, but, like, from this point of view, it makes sense how Chamberlain was just trying to buy time for his country. Well, like I said, Chamberlain, he knew the British army could not face the German army. Germany had started rearming publicly since 1935 when their conscription was introduced, and they started the whole 4-year plan with the Neville bills. But Britain had not been actually rearming. For example, the Calabrian Pact in 1928 that had stopped rearmament, and the Geneva Conference of 1932-34 also prevented rearmament. So Britain was actually good at following the rules, and they did kind of rearm, but within the limits. And they knew that within those limits they would not be strong enough to rearm to fight against Hitler, who had been openly rearming since 1936. Not so openly, like he had started in 1935. That was more open, but within Germany, outside of Germany, that became public in 1936. So they had lost quite a few years to that, and again, they were just buying time. So, like I said, many people in Britain did support the treaty. They thought that Germany had been really screwed over in the treaty oversight, and that, yeah, you could just give Hitler stuff. It's better to have peace than just to just face Hitler and say, hey, let's get into a war. Because France, it was kind of weak. It had been the weakest out of the victors of the First World War, and they didn't support that much the whole policy. I'm going to get into that in a bit. And also, there was no guarantee the British Commonwealth, would actually support the Britain if they went into war. So it was a gamble, and Chamberlain tried to, he gambled for peace. Kind of worked at the beginning, not really. He was forced to declare war. He was, by March 1939, Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia against the Munich Agreement set out in 1938. And by this point, tensions were really, really high. And 1st September 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, and Chamberlain was forced to declare, Britain and France were forced to declare war on the 3rd of September. Because they said we have 2 days to remove your troops from Poland. Hitler ignored that, and just war broke out. So, he was ultimately unsuccessful in appeasement because Hitler just didn't keep the promises he made. But he did try, and he did delay the war for at least 3 years. Not at least, for at least a few months. If you count the Czechoslovakia part, that's a few months. If you count from the Rhineland, 3 years. So, I think he put his reputation on the line just to buy Britain time, and I think it's thanks to him that Britain won the war with the Allies, because if not, who knows? Oops, that was me. So now I'm going to get into the Munich Pact, the Munich Agreement. This is the main part of appeasement. If you're ever asked about appeasement, the first thing that comes to mind is this. So I'm going to explain it now. So this was the 30th of September of 1938. Well, it was between Britain, France, and Germany. So Neville Chamberlain representing Britain. Let me get this right. Edouard Daladier representing France. I probably butchered that. And Adolf Hitler representing Germany. So by the spring of 1938, Hitler had openly said, okay, I want Czechoslovakia. I want to invade that. Give me that. And obviously, they had support there because the northern part of Czechoslovakia is a region called the Sudetenland. I think that's how it's pronounced. It was German speaking, so Hitler knew that if he were to march with some troops over there, he wouldn't face that much opposition. So he had kind of like a foot in Czechoslovakia already. And it was a great step into the policy of Lebensraum, so living space for the greater Germany. Then he already had, by this point, he already had Austria, he already had the Rhineland. All that was missing was Czechoslovakia and Poland. So, Czechoslovakia. And the Czech government knew this and asked Chamberlain, hey, Britain, can you help us? She was like, hey guys, I know you want help, but if I help you, we're going to go to war. And I don't think we would win. So I kind of need to do what Hitler wants and listen to him. So on September 22nd, Hitler just straight up demanded the Sudetenland. It's like, hey, give me it. Right now. I want it. Give me the Sudetenland. And all of you who do not speak German living in Switzerland, you can leave. You can just go back to Czechoslovakia. You're not German. So, by the next day, the 23rd of September, Czech troops were getting ready to face Germany, because they're like, you're invading our country. We're not gonna just let you invade our country, right? And the next day, September 24th, the French troops were starting to get mobilized. So it was it was really hot tension. Czechoslovakian troops were there. French troops were getting ready. Nazi troops were either already there or just on their way. So Daladier and Chamberlain were forced to meet with Hitler to try and negotiate. Even though Daladier himself was opposed to the Munich Agreement, he thought that they shouldn't give it to Hitler, because he would get what he wanted and then ask for more, which is what happened. I mean, Chamberlain thought that Hitler would stop, and then when he didn't stop, he saw that he would keep on going, and then again, like I said, just try to keep him at bay before he wants something too big, and then war. So that was the conference, and that happened. And Daladier, he left, leaving Chamberlain and Hitler. Chamberlain managed to get Hitler to sign the very famous single-page document stating that he would only invade the Sudetenland. That's it, nothing more, no Czechoslovakia. And there would be nothing else. He would stop there. He arrived in London later that day with this little piece of paper. And I kind of find it funny, because there's pictures of it. It said, look at me, we have peace in our time and peace with honor with a little piece of paper. That piece of paper, that piece of paper is practically worthless. He was like, look at me, look, Hitler signed this, no more war. And the next day, on the 1st of October, or the 2nd, I don't know, I think it was the 1st, the whole annexation of the Sudetenland into Germany happened. However, like I said, in March of that year, March 1939, he invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia, leaving Chamberlain and this little piece of paper practically as a joke. Chamberlain did his best, and then war broke out, and he kept on leading until he just couldn't take it anymore and quit. Yeah, after 8 months, and was replaced by this guy who was supposed to replace him, but he turned it down. And little old Winston Churchill came to power as Prime Minister. So yeah, that was Chamberlain. I'm gonna assess it up, but yeah. Now I'm gonna get into Stalin. Stalin, which I am amazed because I asked my friends the other day if they knew who Stalin was, and most of them said no. One of them said they knew he was a Russian dictator. The other ones just didn't say, oh, I recognize the picture, but I have no idea who that is. And then when I said Joseph Stalin, they're like, yeah, who's that? And how do you not know who Stalin is? I knew he was by year 6. I didn't even do history back then. And it's like, hey, then how do you know who Hitler is? Like, oh yeah, we taught Hitler because he's more interesting, he's worse. Like, no. No. Stalin was worse. I am still amazed by the fact that people 16 years of age, young, 14, 16 years of age, don't know who Stalin is. At least my friend was 18. She knew he was. She didn't even know what he did, but he knew who he was. The others just didn't even know his name. And I think it's kind of sad what that says about the education system, because I can understand if you don't know who Neville Chamberlain was. Kind of. He was significant, but he's not Winston Churchill. But Stalin, it's Stalin. Come on. How do you know Hitler? You don't know Stalin. I can give you if you don't know Trotsky, but Stalin? Come on. I was just amazed when they told me that. I love history and I really love reading into things and discovering historical figures, and I get it. Not everyone's like that. You don't have to be like that. But come on, just make an effort to know who the greatest dictators of all time were. I kind of get you don't even know Franco, the Spanish dictator, but Stalin, God. Anyway, let's continue. Well, Stalin, you probably know, Russian dictator, and if you didn't know, now you know. He knew Hitler had his eyes on Poland, and then Poland would be the Soviet Union, so he knew Hitler would eventually turn against them, turn to them for war purposes. So, in order to buy time, he not appeased Hitler, but kind of kept him at bay. I'm going to get into it in a bit, but he did the same thing Chamberlain did. Instead of appeasement, through a different way, but he delayed it until the Soviet Union was ready to face Germany. So I'm going to do a little short background. On August 23rd, 1939, the Nazi-Soviet Pact, also called it has another name. Sorry, wait a second. Let me find it. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed, basically stating that Germany and the USSR wouldn't turn against each other. They could share Germany. They could share Poland. Sorry, but they wouldn't. It's not like if one of them was attacked, they would defend. No, but it was a non-aggression pact, basically. No military action within 10 years. Which I'm going to get into. It's quite funny, the debate between the period of time. And basically, it was a way to keep Hitler there, just not have him invade the USSR, to build up the Soviet military. And that's pretty much the same thing as Chamberlain did. There's quite a few parallels there. Hitler also was interested because Hitler didn't want a war on two fronts like that had happened in World War I. Germany was here, and then had the Allies here, and then Russia. Now, Hitler was here, had the superpower that was the Soviet Union and the Allies, so he didn't want another war on two fronts. So that was kind of good for Hitler too. So they would divide Eastern Europe, win-win, you know. And that was until June 1941, when the whole Operation Barbarossa happened. Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, kind of failed. So, yeah. I'm going to turn on the lights. Wait. That should be better. So, yeah. We're first of all, by March 1939, Hitler had invaded Czechoslovakia, and Poland was kind of scared. He knew they were next. Poland knew they were next. So Britain and France said, "Hey, look, we are going to help you. We're not going to send you troops because that's kind of aggressive, but we're gonna protect you if anything happens." This was just saying. They formalized it later on, but they were just saying, "Okay, if Germany attacks you, we're gonna be there for you." And they also knew the Soviet Union was there, and they knew it would be great to have them on their side because, I mean, not only for Poland's sake, because Germany, Poland, Soviet Union, War went to France for Poland itself, but also because if they had the huge superpower that was the USSR, and by this point the USA had a policy of non-intervention, so they couldn't even count on the USA. If they had the superpower that was the USSR against them, they would be screwed. So they tried to get Stalin on their side. Also, if the Soviet Union fought on their side, Germany couldn't stand a chance. So they drew him closer by trade. They were stating how Hitler would have to face Stalin too. And Stalin himself, he knew what the situation was like, and he saw what things were going on, and he knew Hitler was really aggressive, and he needed to try and stop him. So rather than sending troops to stop Hitler, he would just ally, not formally, but align himself with the Allies. So he had backing there. Only purely for selfish reasons, only to preserve Russia, not Russia, Soviet Union. Not because he wanted to protect Europe. He didn't care about Europe. He cared about the Soviet Union. Well, there had also been an alliance a few years earlier between France and the Soviet Union, basically stating that if Poland attacked the USSR, if Poland was attacked, the USSR would get involved. So Stalin had to get involved, right? And he had an agreement with France, so he was basically dragged into this whole protect Poland deal. Even though he didn't want to, but it was just, again, selfish reasons rather than anything else. So by the spring and summer of 1939, Hitler had Czechoslovakia and said, "Oh wow, Poland, you're looking good. Can I just..." He put increasing pressure on Warsaw and Danzig, the free city, made a free city under the Treaty of Versailles. So the situation was getting tough, and they knew a war with Poland was coming. They did not know when, but they just knew eventually what would happen. Also, Hitler and the German army knew perfectly well that in 1937 and 1938, Stalin had purged top military commanders from his army. So the purge of these military commanders had just weakened the Soviet army, although I think the Germans overestimated how much it had been weakened, because it wasn't that bad. So by May of that year, Hitler knew the situation the Soviets were in, allied with France, and they knew that Poland was what they wanted. So he started chatting with Stalin, again, May 1933. And by July, 2 months later, it was said that Hitler said, "Hey, Stalin, well, I don't know if you want it and if you're interested, but if I invade Poland and I get Poland, maybe there's a little piece of territory just for you." And Stalin's like, "I'm interested. Why don't you come here to Moscow and tell me?" more about this. So Hitler's like, he's not gonna go. Hitler didn't go, but he did send a messenger. I mean, he did send like in August, on the 20th, a personal message saying that war with Poland was inevitable. War with Poland was inevitable, and sent Ribbentrop on the 22nd to Moscow. His foreign minister, which, if I'm not mistaken, was killed in the Nuremberg trials. So they negotiated. No, it wasn't Ribbentrop and Stalin. It was Ribbentrop and Molotov, the Russian foreign minister, Soviet. Although there's pictures of like Stalin actually signing it. Fun fact: Stalin had a cigar, and in some of the pictures, and Hitler didn't like that image because it's like not. I don't know if it's not evident enough, but it didn't uphold Nazi ideals. So he photoshopped. He erased the cigar from Stalin's mouth. Which is kind of funny because Stalin famously did it with many, many, many pictures. And Hitler did it too, kind of. He actually erased Goebbels from one picture and erased quite a few. I don't know. He used it to kind of dictators, you know. They photoshopped before it was cool. So here they had to negotiate the terms of the Nazi-Soviet pact. Hitler said, "Hey, peace, 100 years." Stalin's like, "Nah, 10 years. Take it or leave it." Which I kind of get, because Stalin would have eventually wanted to attack Germany, but wouldn't have sent the wrong message saying, "Nah, 10 years, that's it." Hitler would have been like, "Why only 10 years? Are you planning on attacking us?" But I guess Hitler was like, "Okay, we're gonna break this pact. Even like Germany's not gonna, it's not gonna do the pact. So even if we sign it, we're not gonna actually do it. So yeah, 10 years is fine. We're gonna invade you guys in like 2 years. So who cares?" Also, Soviet Union would not only get half of Poland, but Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and like I mentioned before, if a third party were to attack either of the countries, the other one wouldn't intervene. It's not an intervention and it's not an official alliance, it's just a non-aggression pact. So what happened? By the 25th of August, it was the public announcement of the Nazi-Soviet pact. And it was supposedly the day the whole Poland campaign would start. However, Britain and France, they heard of this. They knew it was coming. I don't know how, but they knew it was coming. So that same day, they remember the treaty I mentioned in March, the agreement with Poland that they would protect. Yeah, well, they actually formalized it in the treaty on the 25th of August of 1939. Hitler was really angry because they had spoiled his plans, and now he was forced to delay. He waited so long. It's like he did it in a week. He still invaded Poland on the 1st of September. War was declared by Britain and France on the 3rd of September. So, yeah. So basically, now to summarize, both Chamberlain and Stalin just wanted to delay Hitler, or have non-aggression pacts through, like Stalin wanted a non-aggression pact to prevent any possible German invasion and prevent any implication in war, because it's not like he thought the Soviet army wasn't strong enough, it's just he wanted it to be more stronger. And Chamberlain, on the other hand, did appeasement, different approaches to strengthen the relatively relatively British army. So I just think both men, Chamberlain was kind of a better man than Stalin, but both men just wanted what their country needed. They just wanted to buy time. None of them liked Hitler. It's not like Chamberlain supported Hitler, that's why he appeased what he wanted. And it's like Stalin just wanted an ally in Germany. So it's just like Italy did do a formal alliance, Japan did do a formal alliance, Soviet Union didn't, and that's why they changed sides later on in the war. So, yeah, in conclusion, both men honestly just did what they wanted to do to appease, to prevent war and improve their own army. Stalin does get the credit for that. I don't think Chamberlain does. I think he just gets put as this guy who got lied again and again and again by Hitler. So he just gets a bad rap, which I honestly don't think he deserves. I don't know much about his policies, but from just this, his reputation as put out by the whole appeasement policy, I don't think he deserves all the hate. Like, from myself included, I did hate on him back when I did GCSE. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, thank you for watching.